Today we're taking a look at the Mothman villain from the Unmatched Adventures. Now, Mothman is one of two villain scenarios from Unmatched Adventures Tales to Amaze, which is the new cooperative gameplay mode for Unmatched. So in this scenario here on the Point Pleasant map, we have Mothman. Now, Mothman is the harbinger of doom from West Virginia, but this mini really is pretty awesome. We got the red eyes, we got the wings are actually kind of semi-translucent there. It's got like the eyes on it there that you have on like a lot of moth wings. We'll see that he has a hexagonal base, which is what all the villains and minions have. So we're going to go through his deck and everything here, but we're going to go and show you some of the setup for the game and how to get this going, because it does set up a little bit different than regular Unmatched. So first of all, we're going to take our threat tracker, which is a hexagon, and put that right there on 1. We're going to take Mothman and stick him there on the number 5 spot. We're going to take our 4 bridges. And the bridges we're going to shuffle up and put randomly in each of these bridge spots. And of course, these are lines as long as the bridge is there, but once the bridge is destroyed, that line is gone and travel between those points can't be there. There's also some text on all of these we'll get into in a bit. We're going to take a look at the Doom tokens. The Doom tokens that come with the main set are these little guys here, which is that side for Doom tokens and that side for aliens on the Martian invaders. You also have the Kickstarter version, which comes with these fancy little Doom tokens here. And these you can see are pretty nice. They're red plastic. It is a moth that has a little skull on it for Doom, and you can see that they've given these tokens a wash, that same wash that they do on all of the Unmatched minis, but on the colored plastic. Going to take 1 Doom token right away and put on the lowest numbered bridge, so right there. Mothman's health dial here, which is also a pretty awesome looking thing, and we'll see that it has 2 dials on it that spin. He has X's for when you defeat him. You're going to set the tens digit to however many players you have. So if you're doing solo, you would set it to 10, 20 for 2, 30 for 3, and 40 for 4. Also, you would take a number of minions that equal to the number of players. You can select them randomly, however you want to go about it, and then set them in a space adjacent to Mothman. Of course, the player heroes will go out on the normal spaces, the normal starting spaces as you would normally have. You've got these placards here that go to the players there, just to help keep track of what order they are, which is important because this does not play in typical Unmatched order. Going to then take the initiative cards. You will take however many players you have and take that card and put in the initiative deck. You would put Mothman into the initiative deck, and whatever minions you were using also go in there. And these get shuffled up randomly. And that becomes the initiative deck, which will tell you the order that you play in. You would take Mothman's deck and you would shuffle that up. I'm not going to do that right now because I want to be able to present the deck here in a bit. And that basically gets you set up to start. You also have, if you want to, the amazing events, which are ways that you can just make this game harder. So we'll look at, before we get into Mothman's deck, we're going to take a look at these bridges here, because Mothman likes to destroy bridges. 4 bridges on here, which you will put on here randomly, and each of these bridges, in addition to having a line on it, also has an effect there. All players draw until they have 4 cards. Move a fighter up to 3 spaces. Reveal the top 2 cards of an enemy's deck. Discard 1. And a fighter recovers 3 health. So these are pretty nice little effects there. How do these effects work? Well, we're going to assume that you have played regular Unmatched and have an idea of how that works. When a fighter moves up to one side or other of the bridge, they may discard a card, and when they discard that card, they get that effect that is on that. And so that discard is considered part of the maneuver that they did there. It's not boosting a maneuver to use that card. You're discarding to get that effect. You also, Doom tokens will accumulate on these bridges, and you also remove a number of Doom tokens equal to the boost value of that card. So that helps you get rid of Doom tokens on bridges, which will be important. So I talked about these initiative cards. We'll take a look at these. Some of these cards are going to be the cards for the players. Once again, you'll put however many players you have, you'll put those in there. You'll see on the initiative cards there is a right now and a end of round. The right now is what happens immediately on the turn there, which for most things is just going to be player one takes a turn. There will be some cards that could go into the Martian Invader side that will do other things. But you notice that Mothman and Jersey Devil have some end of round things that could happen. We'll get into Jersey Devils a little bit later, but we'll take a look at Mothman. And you'll see this also kind of works as Mothman's character card here because it has move 3. And his end of round ability is advance the threat marker a number of spaces equal to 1 plus the Doom tokens on the lowest numbered bridge. So the way that the turn would be decided, turn order would be decided, is these will be shuffled up randomly, and then one of these would come out here. Mothman just happened to give us Mothman first. All right, well, what can Mothman do? Well, Mothman can move up to 3 spaces. So if he is adjacent to someone, he will just attack the adjacent fighter next to him. If he's not, he can move up to 3 spaces to get to somebody. He will go to the closest one that is nearby, which 1, 2, 3 could get him right there, the Golden Bat. So he would go to Golden Bat, and then he would take the top card of his deck. That would be the attack, and Golden Bat would have to defend that card. Well, what all does Mothman have in here? Well, we'll take a look at that. We can see the artwork here on the back of Mothman's card with the road, the glowing eyes of doom. Now you notice that they do not have, that villains do not have a full 30 card deck like your Unmatched heroes have, but that does not mean that they're going to run out of cards early. So we have 10 cards here, but let's take a look at what we have and you'll see what is going on with this guy. Unimaginable Terror. There are 3 copies of this. You notice this looks a little bit different than your typical Unmatched cards. These have separate attack and defense values. This is an attack of 4 and a defense of 3. We see it has a boost value of 4. The only time boost value ever comes into effect is if a player's card cares about the boost value. This has an after combat effect. Deal 1 damage to each adjacent opposing fighter. For each fighter damaged this way, add a Doom token to the lowest numbered bridge. So you can see that this can start to add Doom tokens to bridges, and it always tends a lot of times to add to the lowest numbered bridge, which means that one bridge will get a bunch of Doom on it. Overwhelming Dread. Attack of 4, defense of 2 with a boost of 2. During combat, increase the value of this card by +1 for each destroyed bridge. Place Mothman in the closest empty starting space. Now we're talking about destroyed bridges. How do bridges get destroyed? Well, that is something nice to talk about here, and that is going to be this Doom tracker here. Some cards will move the Doom tracker. Once it gets to there, a bridge gets destroyed. When a bridge gets destroyed, it goes up here to that spot, and then these two effects right here, which are connected to this, will happen immediately when that is done. So it would be like place Mothman adjacent to a hero with the lowest health, and each player destroys, or each player discards a card. So yeah, those getting moved is not good. So you may be asking, what if Mothman couldn't get to anybody in 3 spaces? You know, if there's nobody within 3 spaces, what happens? Well, if that happens, the Doom just goes up 1, and that is for Mothman, and that would also be the same for the minions. So remember, it would be attack adjacent target, move up to its move value, attack somebody nearby. If it can't reach anybody, move the threat tracker 1. So this card here will increase by the number of destroyed bridges, which late game will become a big deal. And also it has a way to move Mothman and place him in the closest empty starting space. That is really important because this randomness here of Mothman being able to move around kind of breaks up a little bit of the predictability of Mothman. Otherwise he would be very predictable and you'd be able to deal with him easily. If he can move around, it makes it a little bit harder. Visage of Impending Doom. This has 2 copies. It is an attack of 3, defense of 1 with a boost of 3. Immediately, if the printed value of the opponent's card is 4 or higher, ignore its value. So if you try to attack him with a big card, or if you try to defend with a big card and this gets thrown out there, Mothman just ignores it. Also, if Mothman won the combat, add a Doom token to each bridge. Ooh, man. You can see how these Doom tokens could start to build up. I mean, if it's on every bridge. Oh, the Doom tokens. Feint! Yes, Mothman has a common card. There are 2 copies of this, both an attack and a defense of 2 with a boost of 2. Cancel all effects on the opponent's card. You know what Feint is. And this last card that there's 1 copy of, which is every single villain and minion has a copy of Deception. They have a single copy of it. It is both an attack and defense of 0 with a boost of 3. Whenever this card is put into Mothman's discard pile, shuffle its discard pile back into its deck, including this card. This effect cannot be canceled. Okay, so this card right here is what keeps everything moving in this game. Basically, they don't run out of cards because as soon as Deception shows up, all these cards get shuffled back into the deck. And somewhere in here, Deception will show up. Now, Deception is great because it is a 0. And so whenever you hit that, you'll either have no defense or no attack from the villain or minion, which is great for you. But it also means that these cards are also shuffling back in. Why that can't be canceled, and there's no way to really stop that from happening. It's also the reason that Black Panther is a bit problematic, because if he were to put Deception in his vibranium suit, it would just kind of just stall the game out there. So that is all of Mothman's cards. We got a little bit more we'll take a look at, but we'll finish out the initiative here. We would have, in this time, it would be player 1 that would come out next. And you got to remember, you don't know the order that these are coming. But as you get more cards in the initiative deck, it starts getting harder to predict the order that these are going to come out. And it gets more random. The alien invaders, as well as some of the minions, also have the ability to stick multiple cards in the initiative deck, which can really make things interesting. And then the Jersey Devil would come in and do his thing, and Jersey Devil would, move 3 spaces to get somebody. He can't, so it would advance the tracker 1 space in this scenario. So now we have hit the end of the round. So what happens at the end of the round? Well, because now we're going to grab this card, and in the order that these are down here, we're going to pick it up, and we're going to start doing these end of round turns. Advance the threat marker a number of spaces equal to 1 plus the number of doom tokens on the lowest numbered bridge. So this is always going to advance 1, but in this place we'd have, like, you could advance 1. If we had 3 on the lowest numbered bridge, you would advance 4. Ooh, that's not good. Players don't get any end of round things. And then the minions also have end of round things, which we'll get into in a bit with them. So what you got to do is take out the big guy here before he kills all of you or destroys all of the bridges. That's the ways that he can win. Now, I said I was going to take a look at the different minions that were in here. I'm going to take a look at 3 of the 6 minions that come with this set. Any of the minions can be played with either of the villains, but there are 3 of these that are kind of famous cryptids that kind of thematically go along with Mothman. We'll start off with Jersey Devil. He has 8 total cards, so not quite as many cards as Mothman has. Blood Curdling Scream. Attack of 2, defense of 1 with a boost of 3. During combat, the opposing fighter discards 1 card from their hand or the top card of their deck. Add its boost value to this card's value. Forked Tail Whip. 3 copies of this. An attack of 3, defense of 2 with a 2 boost. Immediately, if the opponent played a card with the same name as a card in their discard pile, cancel its effects and ignore its value. So, Triskaidekaphobia, an attack of 1 or defense of 4 with a boost of 3. Now, we'll notice here with Triskaidekaphobia that the effect only is attached to the attack. You see, it's got the break in it there, which means on defense, it's just a defense of 4 and nothing happens. And it's just on the attack that this effect happens. So that is important to note when you see the things split like this, that is what's going on. Immediately, all players discard the top card of their deck. He's just going to start milling through your deck, and after combat, each player with 13 or more cards in their discard pile removes those cards from the game. I mean, so this could be weird for players that need to have things in their discard pile. Like Sinbad, this is just painful because voyages go away. Those fighters that really love recursion, even small-time recursion like Achilles, or major recursion like Winter Soldier or Daredevil. That gets really rough as those start disappearing. But when these cards are removed from the game, it means they're no longer in your discard pile, so Forked Tail Whip won't activate. It's a little bit of a saving grace. And of course, the Deception card that everybody has. And his end of round ability is each player with a fighter in the Jersey Devil zone discards cards from the top of the deck equal to the threat level. So yeah, if the threat level would be this number here, it gets up to 5. That's just oof. Loveland Frog. Leg Thrash. 2 copies. Attack of 1, defense of 3. After combat, if the Loveland Frog won the combat, deal 2 damage to an opposing fighter. Tongue Lash. 3 copies. Attack of 1, defense of 2 with a 1 boost value. Does nothing. That's a blank card. So you see that he just starting to do a lot of really little annoying attacks here. It Emerged from the Swamp. Attack of 2, defense of 1 with a 2 boost. 2 copies. Place the Loveland Frog in the closest empty starting space. Then deal 1 damage to each adjacent opposing fighter. End of round. Deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter adjacent to Loveland Frog. And then add a Loveland Frog Strikes Again initiative card to the initiative deck before you reshuffle. What? There's 3 of these. Loveland Frog Strikes Again. You initially just start off with the 1 Loveland Frog card, but then you can get more of these in there. And so Loveland Frog will add other cards to the initiative deck at the end of each round, which means as it goes on, Loveland Frog starts getting more turns, which is why these stupid little ones get really annoying. He doesn't hit big outside of the effects on Leg Thrash, and it emerged from the swamp, but he will just keep coming back. So you can see why the Loveland Frog is really, really annoying. Skunk Ape only has 6 cards in his deck. We start off with Back into the Brush. An attack of 3, defense of 3, 2 copies with a boost of 3. Of course, this effect here only happening on the attack. After combat, if Skunk Ape lost to combat, put its initiative card in the bottom of the initiative deck. Well, that means that Skunk Ape will have his card go to the bottom of the deck, which means he will get an additional turn on that round. Gruesome Lure, 1 copy. An attack of 4, defense of 2. The attack effect is during combat, if the Skunk Ape did not move this turn, the value of this card is 6 instead. Ooh. Bestial Bite has 2 copies, both an attack and a defense of 2. If the opposing fighter is a sidekick, the value of this card is 5 instead. Yep, don't let him get your sidekicks. And of course, Skunk Ape's Deception card. Now, there are a lot of little details that I kind of glossed over. So this will be the rulebook for the Unmatched Adventures scenario here. Core rulebook will go over everything Unmatched, and then you have a small book here that will be specifically for the fighters and the maps. So anyway, you can see what is going on here with Unmatched Adventures and the Mothman scenario here on the Pleasant Point map. I think that this is going to be a really great way to play Unmatched, and a bit different than what we have typically done in the past. But it's a way to get a lot of people that aren't into the dueling nature of Unmatched into it, as it more has a as the co-op version here is a lot more welcoming to a lot of people that way. I'll be going over the Martian invader scenario on a different video. So if you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and a like. You can check out all the videos that I have on the channel and subscribe to make sure you don't miss anything. And you can also leave comments here on this video and let me know what you think of it. I'm Jeremy, or Poindexter G, from To The Tabletop, and we'll see you around next time.